Welcome to the Undercovers podcast. I'm Ben, along with Paul and Tommy. Jenna, unfortunately, cannot make it tonight. She'll be back next week. We will be joined by Lexi in a little bit from the Kingdoms Queens podcast. I believe that's right,
Yep,
correct?
that's
Okay,
correct.
perfect. Yeah, so the Bills are off their bye week now. We're officially, we got one more game about to wrap up, but we're week 13?
Week 13. Yep.
About to be done. It's crazy. Like, this season is just absolutely flown by. But
Yeah.
here we are. We're about to be on week 14. Pivotal matchup for the Bills. And I'm sure everyone watched, usually the whole the whole country watches Sunday Night Football. So,
Yep.
you know, as we all saw last night, the Chiefs lost, and that's actually not good news for the Bills just because of Mahomes' record. But
Yeah.
then you got McDermott 6-0 off the bye,
All
so
right. Something's got
you
to
kind
give.
of figure something's got to give, right?
Yeah, something's got to give this
But
week.
yeah, here we are, pivotal matchup. This is basically a must-win game for the Bills.
Yeah, this is. Even though the Bills got a lot of help coming off the bye, they had 3 games to go their way out of 4, so they got a lot of help. It's just they got to take care of business now going forward. So
yeah, it after Thanksgiving, football games become more crucial. Wins become even more critical, right? Wins and losses really just can shift an entire landscape of a playoff picture. You look at the AFC playoff picture, there's at least 11 teams fighting for a spot right now.
yeah,
And I just had this random thought yesterday. What if the Chiefs go on a dry spell? Chargers get hot. There could be, not going to sound the alarms just yet, there could be a possibility the Chiefs could slip out.
yeah.
Maybe the
How
Bills
far are the
can slip
Chargers
in.
out from the division?
They won last night.
Were they 5 and 7?
Know. I just a
I don't
random
think
thought when I was right about to go to sleep.
I think it's I think it's more
Denver.
or less.
I think more Denver.
Yeah, but Denver lost yesterday.
Whoever.
Yeah, but
it's a good thought, but the Chiefs
Just
are
a
what?
random
They're
thought.
8-4. Even if they lose,
I don't know if y'all can pull up their schedules to see.
yeah, I'll
who
pull up
has
the Chiefs
easier
schedule right now.
But I think Denver. See, the thing is with Denver, they play the Chargers twice still. So that
Denver's only 2 games out of that spot. They're 6-6.
So the Chiefs, after us, play the Patriots, the Raiders, and Bengals. Yeah, I think that wraps it up. That's like 3 gimmies right there.
Right.
2 of them are at home. The Patriots you saw yesterday, they were absolutely lifeless. So, even if say the Chiefs lose to the Bills, which I'm not saying they are, it's going to be a tough game, but those are 3 games right there. They can easily get to 11 wins, and then they play the Chargers at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We all know the Chargers like the Charger. It's a nice hypothetical. If the Chiefs were in another division, it could happen, or if they had a couple more losses and the division was a little stronger. But here's the reality. This year may not be it may not be the Arrowhead Invitational. It might be the first year that another team gets that elusive number 1 seed. Well, I guess the Titans technically did in 2021, but all roads still led through Arrowhead in that playoff because Cincinnati knocked off the Titans, and then the Chiefs were the highest remaining seed, so they didn't have to play a game on the road, but they could potentially this year. It depends what happens going forward. I think that's big. The Chiefs, let's be honest, they're not the same old Chiefs. And I'm not trying to bury them yet because it's still, there's still 5 more games to be played.
Yeah.
And they're in much better shape than the Bills. And we've kind of seen it before a little bit, maybe not to this extent with that team, but I have more faith in Mahomes, Reed, and Kelsey than, about any other group as far as turning it around. So until they don't do it and they're not in the in the AFC Championship game, because let's be honest, 5 years starting, Patrick Mahomes has never not been in an AFC Championship game. So if history proves itself, it's going to happen until it doesn't happen. So I'm just going to go by that logic. So until they lose in the playoffs, I'm not writing off the Chiefs, and I'm just going to say that right now, but they do look a little vulnerable to me right now.
Yeah, they do. They have some weaknesses that I think like last year's team they didn't have. Like I feel like their offense is a little underperforming. Like unlike last year, where they were kind of like spot on. And then I think this year their defense is actually better.
It's much better.
They've had they're sick of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, which I think hurt them last night. Like they were down to their third string linebacker. One of their safeties got carted off. And I don't. Did they have another injury last night? I think one of their offensive linemen maybe was out. But I know think, like they've been going through some injury bugs just like the Bills. So
yeah.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are an interesting team, just like the Bills are just an interesting team. It feels like more games win in the Chiefs' favor than the Bills. I mean, the Chiefs, we all seen the Chiefs offense this year. It's super underperforming. I mean, they're only averaging in the last 6 games 19.4 points per game. In the last 6 games. It's super underperforming from their first 6 games when they were averaging about 24 a game. So it's weird because it's an interesting phenomenon between the Chiefs and the Bills. You can really rely it on coaching, and you could say in a way. It's just the Chiefs have the better coach, and that's why they're able to gut out some of these wins. And their defense has just been carrying them I would say maybe the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, that the Chiefs defense is carrying them to these wins. I would say, I mean, there was a couple games where Patrick Mahomes completely lit up, and all great credit to him. But Patrick Mahomes at times this season has looked confused. He looked confused on Sunday night against the Packers. That interception that he threw in the final 5 minutes of that fourth quarter just gave it to me that he looked confused. His reaction is just like he's just not comprehending whatever offensive system that they're running, but he's been in that offensive system for so many years. He's just missing that piece. Maybe defenses are finally realizing we know how to stop the Chiefs' offense, but how do we stop the Chiefs' defense? Once that happens, I think the Chiefs are going to be easier to stop, and other teams are going to emerge in the AFC.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said, some teams have caught on to what they're doing. Like, I mean, I think I'm sure like last like from last night's game, like I'm sure like we've watched tape. I'm sure teams are watching tape of how to expose them into like in the late in the games and early in the game. So like I think like I said, they are vulnerable. I don't think like they're the same team as last year, and I think if you can get up on them, I think it's going to be hard for them to come back in a game.
100%. And we've seen their defense take a big leap this year, but I mean, last night they lost a couple of players. I think was it Tranquil, Drew one of them, Drew Tranquil one of them, and then Brian Cook the other.
Brian Cook, and then I think one of their offensive linemen was
okay. Wow. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Anybody? I guess we could ask what's her name? Lexi. Yep. She comes in. We could ask her if Bolton is that the guy's name? Their starting linebacker, if he's going to come back.
Okay, yeah, I think it is Bolton, the one they're missing.
When he's supposed to be coming back.
Yeah, that's a good point because then they're going to be down their starter and their backup.
Yeah.
And then I guess the Pacheco situation is one to monitor if he'll play the game. Yeah, I mean,
what's the rule with that? Is it you get suspended half a game if you get
our guest is here, everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's bring in Lexi from the Kingdom's Queens podcast. Hey, how are you doing?
Hello. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Sorry, I'm running a little bit behind today.
Everything's good. Right. So what was your perspectives of the game last night from the Chiefs? Because I think us Bills, we were definitely watching. So I wanted to get your perspective.
Yeah, I'm sure. Perspective of the game. I was excited. At first it was Mahomes' first time in Lambeau, and I do think the Chiefs and the Packers actually matched up pretty well.
Right.
I think the Packers were just hungrier for the win ultimately, which is unfortunate. But they played that way. And, you can say what you want about the refs, whatever. There were some unfortunate calls on both sides, some missed calls on both sides. At the end of the day, the Packers played like they wanted to win the game more. And I think that's ultimately why the Chiefs lost. I know you guys are familiar with this, but we had a lot of injuries during the game, especially to our defense.
Yeah.
And and just our offense, I think the biggest thing amongst Chiefs fans right now is that we're really frustrated with the lack of consistency. Like we get Rashee Rice going, we get Travis Kelce going, we get Isaiah Pacheco going, all those guys that are making an impact constantly. And then they constantly work in MVS and Sky Moore, which I think they need to be the guys getting like the lower percentage of snaps at this point. Right. So I think that's our biggest qualms with the offense right now. But yeah, overall a disappointing loss for sure. Penalties hurt us, and we have to figure those out because it's getting us pretty much every single game. So
yeah, we had to do that with the Eagles 2 weeks ago because there were some calls in that game which we could go back and say, well, what's going on here? But Paul, Ben, you got any questions for?
Yeah, Lexi, you're just talking about the defensive injuries. First of all, run through them. I think it was Tranquil and Cook. And is Bolton going to be back for the game next week? Because that takes a hit on your linebacker depth.
It definitely does. Our 2-star green dotted Mike linebackers are out. So Bolton, I think Andy Reid said today he is like gunning to get back right now. And I don't blame him after especially this last game with Tranquil going out. I'm sure Bolton was just like, let me in. Right. But I don't know for sure if he'll be playing this week or not. I think the Chiefs are very conservative with putting players back in too early. Like I know a lot of teams will, I was questioning the Saints, I think it was this past week, where they put Thomas back in. And, or was it Thomas or was it Olave that had the concussion?
Olave
that had the concussion. Yep. They put him back in within the week span. I don't know that the Chiefs are going to do that with like Drew Tranquil. And then I don't know what's going to happen with Nick Bolton. And our third string, Jack Cochran, he's good. But I mean, that's a big role to take on, especially against a team like the Bills that's going to be gunning for a win. So, yeah. I mean, because like, I don't know for sure.
We've, like I said, like we're down to our second string linebacker, so like we've had linebacker issues as well. So
right,
injuries are definitely a huge factor in this game heading into this week. But right before you came on, I was just talking about Patrick Mahomes, and to me, watching last night and some of these offensive performances, he seems confused in his offense that he's been playing in for so long. Do you as a Chiefs fan and in the Chiefs community, do you feel like he's confused in his own offense?
I wouldn't say confused is the right word, but I will say, I don't know if you guys spend any time on Chiefs Twitter, X, whatever. It's controversial right now. I mean, he's not having one of his best seasons, right? But I feel like they're also putting every ounce of pressure they can on him to be perfect week after week, because you're getting routes that are not run properly by Sky Moore and MVS, specifically those two. And they're also like carrying the weight of the snaps. And so to know Andy Reid is to know that your rookie wide receivers aren't usually going to be big difference makers in at least usually the first season. But Rashee Rice, we're seeing him step in a lot. However, it's like once we get him rolling and get him working, then we tend to take him out. So I think that's quite frustrating for Chiefs fans right now, especially our other tight end, Noah Gray. He's been doing really well. He has 0 drops this season. He had a touchdown last night. And I think we all want to see more of him too, but it's like we're just getting these sets of these guys that aren't running the right routes. And I don't think Mahomes looks confused. I think he is expecting them to run these certain routes, and I think he has very high expectations, as he should, for what they're doing. And they're not quite delivering. So it's unfortunate to see because it's not making him look that great either. And I do think there's ways that he could step up. And I think that it's hard because you're asking a lot of him, and we don't have
Right.
I mean, our best wide receiver is a rookie wide receiver, which is great, but like, you know.
Yeah,
and not only that, Lexi, you have to rely, like, I mean, let's be honest, Travis Kelce's one of the best to ever lace him up, but your number one pass catcher, a 35-year-old, I mean, who's had injury issues this year, like, that's just not a great recipe for an elite offense. I mean, let's be honest, like, last year, like, everyone always likes to, trash on Juju, whatever, for his off-the-field antics or dancing, but, I mean, he missed, like 3 games with a concussion last year, and he would have probably had well over 1,000 yards. I mean, that's a lot of production from that offense. Like, I mean, Juju, like, he's a very underrated receiver, and I don't think enough people really took that into consideration as far as the factors in that offense, because, I mean, he did a lot of the dirty work last year, and even that Bills game, like, he had a really long touchdown off a broken tackle. So, like, I feel like I mean, even the Super Bowl, he made a couple of big plays. Like, I mean, a guy like that, a veteran receiver who doesn't drop the ball and can get open, like, that's big. And to miss someone like that, like, that's a big loss.
I would say that's what we're definitely missing this season. I think a lot of us tried to have faith in like what Sky Moore would do his second year and what MVS would do this second year in this offense, but they both just seem to like completely regress, which I understand. It's like, they're not the biggest names in the league, right? But like, they did a lot for us in the playoffs last season. Sky Moore I mean, I don't know, bless his soul. Like, he just has not done what we need him to do. Like last night, that interception, in the moment, I was like, that's totally on Mahomes. And then I rewatched it a few times and I'm like, that's on Sky Moore for not running the right route and just stopping in his route. And I think in the past, what I saw a few Chiefs fans saying today is like, we've usually seen Mahomes adjust to that and adjust out of play calling, but this season he seems to really just be following the play calling and not doing like his crazy antics that we're used to either. And I think that's due to like the lack of trust in his wide receivers right now.
100%. Like, I was actually going to say the same thing. Like, to me, just kind of like as an outlooker, like, it kind of just looks like, Mahomes doesn't have a lot of trust. And I don't watch a lot of Chiefs games, just like the primetime ones, but just the highlights or whatever. Like, I mean, Mahomes last year, all the crazy off script plays, and just throughout his career, you're not seeing that from him this season. So I
like
agree
hardly
100%.
at all.
Yeah, you're not. Like, it's all within a structure. And the problem is it's not a great structure. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I just feel like it's actually that way. And I feel like we're so used to seeing that with Mahomes, and that's like the exciting part of watching the Chiefs. But I actually feel like it's that way throughout the league this year. Like, you're not really seeing a ton of off-script stuff from any guys. And usually I guess Mahomes is that guy, but I feel like even Allen, he usually does that. And I don't feel like we've seen that as much from him this season.
I mean, you're right. I mean, Lamar Jackson too. How many long Lamar touchdown runs have you seen this year? Like, he normally will break off like a 50 or 60 yarder.
Right.
I don't think we've seen that.
No. And even with Jalen Hurts, like, we're used to that with him. And I feel like there's just some regressing around the league for offenses.
I think with Josh, though, I think Dorsey was holding him back so much.
Yeah.
Now when we got that new coordinator coming in, I think it just opened up a lot for our offense.
It did, but like, even go through that Jets game and that Philly game, like how many big plays down the field did we have? I mean, there's a couple big ones that I think Josh missed early in the season, like the Patriots game. Like, we could have had like an 80-yard touchdown, he just overthrew it, and like the Jags game, we could have had like a 99-yard touchdown. I think it was just him and Diggs weren't necessarily on the same page, because if you look at it, it looks like he underthrew it. But then if you go, like, at first it looks like he underthrew it, but if you rewatch it, it also looked like Diggs kind of mistimed the jump. And, if he just went ahead and caught it and turned around, like, he could have just, been able to run with that, and that jump kind of broke his stride. But like, you're right, you don't see those big plays across the league. I guess Miami's an exception, but they got Tyreek Hill.
Right.
Like, Tyreek Hill is like the greatest offensive weapon of the 21st century. I mean,
it's crazy.
If you heard, I don't know if you heard what Wes Welker said at the press conference, but even like, he called him a better receiver than Randy Moss. He's like, yeah, sorry, Randy, Tyreek can run the full route tree. Like,
what's crazy is Tyreek, as much as we loved him here in Kansas City, it's almost as if he's gotten better. And I don't know if that's kind of like what he was saying the other day, is like, he is that number one guy. He is the star of their offense, where I think here you have Mahomes and Kelsey, and it was kind of like a 3-ring offense or a 3-ring like stars of the offense, right? But he was kind of that third guy more so, and I feel like he really is the star, and he really is flourishing, and it's showing.
Didn't y'all's defense too? Didn't y'all shut him out pretty much in that game? Like he didn't have that a big of it. Like we shut him out when we played him. So like I think
I think we held him to like 60 yards or so.
Yeah, I think we know how to play him. Like y'all and us know how to play.
Right.
I think this is just my opinion, but I think also, the presence of another speedy wide receiver in Jalen Waddle who can take the top off the defense and who can, any catch. Go back and watch the Packers game last year. He took like a 15-yard slant to the house, crazy, run after the catch. He had a crazy run after the catch versus the Bills.
Yeah.
Waddle actually might be better after the catch than Tyreek because he might have better moves. Like it's kind of hard to describe. Like he's not as fast in a straight line, but he's a weapon.
Yeah.
And
they're different for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But they can both take the top. Like they're both 4-3 guys.
Yeah.
So when you have those two guys both across the field, like that completely, like I know as great as Kelsey is, that completely changes the defense because you can literally have two guys who could take the top off you. So you pretty much constantly have to play two safeties deep.
Could you imagine how great their offense would be if they had a legit tight end too?
Yeah, exactly.
If they had,
it's kind of absurd to think about it, but yeah.
I kind of hope they don't go after Zach Ertz. You know what I'm saying?
I guess we'll see what what Zach Ertz has left.
I feel like he's going to sign somewhere this week.
Yeah.
I feel like what's crazy to me is the Eagles, they just have like unlimited amounts of money. It seems like.
Right. It seems that way.
They think the cash base is fake. We just go spend.
How much did Leonard sign there, by the way? Did that ever come out?
I actually don't even know.
I know it's a 1-year deal. I know it's
a 1-year deal. The one caveat to Leonard is that the Colts are already paying him, so he could have legit just took a vet man, and he's still getting $18 million from Indianapolis. So not like he is incentive other than just to play for like a team like Philly. Maybe prove that he still has something left. I don't know, but Ertz, I think the Bills. Who else were in the consideration? Speaking of Ertz, it was the Bills, Eagles,
any contender.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
Oh, the Chiefs were in there too. Okay, that would be interesting.
I think it literally is. I think it's like.
Chiefs, that would be interesting.
Bills,
to see.
Ravens, Eagles.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see Ertz line up across from Kelsey. Like that would definitely cause some nightmares for some
linebackers
and safeties.
Cause nightmares for us.
God,
just imagine.
I don't think he'll play this week.
He won't be there by Sunday.
I mean down the line.
Yeah.
Right.
If we play him in the playoffs, that is a possibility. You're right, Paul.
Yeah, getting in for the playoffs would be huge.
Where do you think the Chiefs is going to strive this weekend, and where do you think the Chiefs might, struggle a bit against the Bills?
Man, I think if anyone has watched our games recently, it's our run game tackling is not good. So if you guys can get your run game going, and Josh Allen does his thing as he usually does against us, I think this is one of our biggest games for the regular season. I know Nick Wright said it today. He thinks it's like the biggest regular season game in Mahomes' career. Which I don't know if I fully agree with that. I do think it's definitely so far the biggest regular season game of this season for sure. Just because you guys are coming off of a bye week. Obviously hungry to make the playoffs. Chiefs are really getting annoyed by their win-loss thing right now. And gunning for the 1 seed. And we need this win. Like we need to win out really because we have the Ravens and the Dolphins right now with better records than us. So I just think the key is to winning this game against the Bills. I think it's going to be a really hard fought battle. I think it's going to be like a 1 3-point type game. Like it's going to be really close. Yeah. It could even go to overtime. Who knows? But I think for us, we have to. I hope so too. I know you guys do.
Not a good trend for the Bills.
Not a good thing. But yeah, I think the key is stopping your guys' run, stopping Josh Allen. Our D-line needs to be a little bit hungrier. I mean, they've been good, but we need them just to be a little more hungrier than they were like against the Packers the other day. And I think with the offense, we just need to get into our rhythm. I think stop letting up on Pacheco. He is a force to be reckoned with. He will run through you the thing about him is he's going to run hard on every single play, like no matter what it is, he's going to like give it his all. So I think just not giving up on the run, get Rashee Rice involved more again and get Noah Gray involved more on those 2 tight end sets. Please, I think we just really need to stop with the Sky Moore snaps. He once again against the Packers had like the 2nd most snaps, and it just makes no sense to me. He had 1 catch for 5 yards. That's it. 2nd most snaps, 1 catch for 5 yards.
Yeah, they should design more
Davis
plays.
in Buffalo.
I know he could be dynamic. You know what I'm saying, Lexi? Like I think they should design more plays for him. It's just I don't know
something, but they're just. I feel like there's too many guys that are like right there but aren't there.
Yeah.
Now, and we're designing plays for like certain guys, but I don't know.
I got a question about Pacheco. Like, do you think he's just gonna get fined for like that punch he threw? Or
oh man,
how does that work? Like, will he get suspended for half a game? I don't know how that works.
You guys
Possibly.
hope.
No, I mean, if I want him out there. Like, I want that Chiefs team we can play. You know,
he's a really fun. He's just a really fun player to watch anyway. I think.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, probably just a fine. I don't know for sure.
That's what I was thinking.
What I've seen with other players getting suspended, it seems like it's just a fine unless it's like a repeat offense.
Right.
And he doesn't. He's never done that, so I don't think he'd be suspended. But he will get fined, I'm sure.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Ben?
No. I was just saying, yeah. I mean, I was just kind of wondering the same thing because I did hear something about that, but I wasn't sure if it was a rule or not. But I mean, if you go back and watch the replay, you can see that he was kind of provoked. So I mean,
yeah.
The guy had his head in the ground.
Exactly.
So
like he was responding to him. But what I can never understand why a football player punches a guy in the helmet. Like they're not gonna feel it with a helmet. Like I don't know. It makes no sense. Like I've always wondered that. Like I went to a game, I think maybe like 8 years ago. Robert Woods threw a punch and got ejected. Like the same thing. Like I could never figure out why players throw a punch with when someone's wearing a helmet. But I guess
where do you want them to throw the punch? Now I'm wondering.
I mean, no. Yeah, I know, right?
Paul, I'm not advocating for punching, but I mean, if you're gonna punch a helmet, I mean, it's just I don't know. It's just like you're gonna hurt your hand. I feel like.
Yeah, but now you're making me wonder where you want them to throw it.
I mean, just don't throw a punch in a football game. Like, like it's
never gonna end well.
Like it's like punching I don't know. It's like punching a wall or something. Like just like no reason to. Like exactly. Like you're gonna get thrown out. Like I don't know. Just next question.
I feel like Pacheco. He's the kind of player that just gets fired up over those scenarios, especially and. I think last year he had better control over it just because he was a rookie and he was kind of like, okay, I can't overstep my bounds. This year, I feel like he's a little more confident and he's like, okay, let me try this. So maybe I can get away with it. Nope. So
right.
Yeah. But I love the passion, but yeah, we can't be doing that at all.
Right. Do you have any questions for us, Lexi, about the Bills or anything you want to know or?
Yeah, what are your guys' like keys to winning this game? What do you guys want to see from your team? I know it's been a very up and down season.
Yeah, Paul, let you first.
I don't want to sound bold or just too overconfident, but I just way I seen the Bills played against the Eagles and playing maybe the best defensive performance they did against the Eagles in that first half. Anything after the second half, the first half, just ignore. What they did in that first half against the Eagles just completely shut them down, and their offense is hot. If the Bills can do that, I think it could be a long day for Chiefs fans, in my opinion, because the Bills will get. If the Bills get hot offensively and their defense can hold down, Josh Allen might turn up some wild numbers against the Chiefs. It could happen. Not saying it will, but I think that's a slight possibility of happening this weekend.
I mean, he is the only quarterback to go into Arrowhead and win 2 games, there out of any quarterback that's ever gone there, right?
Well, in the Mahomes era.
In the Mahomes
well, in the regular season, right? Yeah.
I think Josh is the only quarterback to win there twice.
Yeah, it's not often that it happens.
Yeah,
I think Burrow, but that counts playoffs. So, but yeah, I mean, no, you guys play us well in Arrowhead. That's not a secret. So I think for Chiefs fans too, it's like as confident as I am in our team. And I'm sure you guys have seen our defense throughout the season has been really good. Last night was really uncharacteristic for them, and so I'm hoping, I mean, I don't know if you guys figure out your run against us and we still can't stop that, then it definitely could be, and I know you guys are hungry for a win, so we'll see. I don't know.
We'll see if the Bills Leonard Fournette as well, because he made a tweet saying,
"Oh, I forgot he joined your team."
yeah, we got playoff money on our team.
Yeah, he's ready to hoop, right, Tommy? That's what he said.
Hoops or whatever that meant.
But we'll I mean, yeah. But then on the same hand, if the defense shows up like they did against the Jags, the Dolphins, I mean, even the Eagles, we didn't allow that many points. So if that defense shows up against you guys, then it could be a long day for the Bills because you guys haven't seen this defense. Right. However, if Bolton's not back and Tranquil's still out, I don't know. It's going to be a surprise whatever happens on Sunday with those players.
Well, we thank you for your time. We're running out. I know we told you about 20 minutes about that. So we thank you for your time. Great insight on the Chiefs, and may the best team win on Sunday.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I know you guys have a great team. I think it's been unfortunate with injuries and firings and random stuff, but yeah, we all go through it, right? So
true, yeah.
it's not like we love our offense right now either. So we'll figure it out.
One more question on ours. You can, like, if you want to, like, because I know you're on a podcast too. If you want to,
yeah. One more. I also have one more question. I'm just kind of before. Is there a chance that you think Tony gets more involved in the offense? Because I know you traded for him last year, and again, I don't watch the Chiefs closely, but like when he's targeted, it seems like he makes plays, and like that guy's shifty. Like it seems like he's the type of receiver Mahomes likes.
Did we lose her?
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh no! Wait, is she back?
Good. Something happened.
She might have lost connection.
Oh man.
All right. Well.
All right. Let's move on.
Thank you for Lexi again.
For the great.
Yeah, that was a great interview. She's from the Kingdom Chiefs podcast.
They do
Kingdom Queens podcast for the Chiefs. They do great work. So we'll link her page and her podcast page after. And
Paul, take care of that, right, Paul?
I'll take care of it. Yep.
Okay, yep. And I know, we got a big game ahead with the Bills and Chiefs, and we think
she's back.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't. I got a call right as you asked that, so it canceled me.
Do you want to plug?
I'm doing this on my phone.
Do you want to plug on our podcast? You can do that.
I'll answer his question about Tony, and then I'll plug my show.
Okay, cool.
I think your question was about Kadarius Toney. So
yeah, it was about Tony.
I think we finally saw him break out against, I believe it was the Eagles the other week. And he finally, but I think they're just being conservative with him because he's so injury prone. And I think we're pretty much slated to make the playoffs. So I do kind of see them saving him for that.
Interesting.
I don't know. Just the way Andy Reid is talking, it kind of sounds like that. But I hope we start seeing him more in the next few weeks because when he is going, he's very electric.
Yeah, just hopefully not this week, right?
For you.
Yeah.
For y'all, no.
Right. We'll see.
But we'll take what we can get over here. But yeah. No, and then thank you guys for having me on. My podcast I am on is called At Kingdom's Queens Podcast. So we are a Chiefs all-female podcast. And yeah, just love covering the team. We go live on Tuesdays, so tomorrow. 7 p.m. Central Time, so 8 p.m. your guys' time. And awesome. Yeah, and then we're on Apple and Spotify, and yeah, but it should be a fun week. I'm looking forward to the match, and may the best team win. Like you guys said, it's gonna be a bloodbath out there because both teams need this. So
100%. What Tony Romo picks as his final score mid-game.
Right.
Well, no matter what, it should be a great game. Like Mahomes, it's always great. Bills, Chiefs, it's a great rivalry. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Me too. Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you again, Lexi, for coming on.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
You too.
All right.
All right, and again, that was Lexi from the Kingdom Queens podcast on Twitter. Make sure you check out their podcast, and they go live tomorrow at 7 Central Time. So that'd be 8 Eastern, I believe.
8 Eastern.
Yep.
Yeah, because they're an hour behind. So 8 Eastern, if you want to get some insight on the Chiefs, I highly recommend check that out. They'll definitely dive more into the matchup and the Chiefs Chiefs perspective. It'll be interesting kind of to hear it because I want to see hear what they're saying about the Bills going into that matchup. So I'll probably check it out and see what they're saying or hear what they're saying. Sorry. But anyways, to move on, I know we have a big game coming up for the Bills Chiefs. We have more coverage on that Thursday in the Buffalo Basement podcast, and Lexi obviously is going to cover it more on her podcast. But we had a couple big games this weekend for college football, and we also had a first time in the history of the college football playoff selection, and some massive controversy, Tommy.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the show, we're gonna talk about our picks too, whatever. But we also cover college football, whatever. And as a Florida State fan, it's a travesty. As a college football fan, it's a travesty. Jordan Travis is a hell of a player, but as Coach Norvell said, as the other players said, I mean they're more than just Jordan Travis, but the SEC bias always prevails, and Bama is in.
Yeah.
They almost lost to a very, average or maybe below average Auburn team the week before. They needed a miracle to win that game. But for the first time ever, an undefeated conference champion does not make the 14 college playoff. A Power 5 conference champion, that is.
Right. And didn't Bama and Texas both jump Florida State?
They both jumped Florida State. You're right. Florida State started this week at the 4.
I'm grieving there.
And the number 1 team dropped out. So how does a team drop from 5 out or drop from 4 to 5 while another team drops out and then two other teams pass it? Like it really makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then they draw Georgia of all teams in the Orange Bowl, so that's a nice consolation prize, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they get to play the 2-time defending champs Georgia, who's probably looking for some revenge after losing their first game in 41 games, 40 games, something like that, 39. They had a massive win streak going back to
I think it was 30. I don't think it was anywhere close to 40. It was like 29 or 30.
Either way, it was a long win streak,
right.
And it was going on 2+ years at that point because their last loss was to Alabama in the SEC championship game, which they ended up making the playoff and getting their revenge on Alabama in the championship game. But we've gotten multiple times with 2 SEC teams. We've gotten times with a one-loss non-conference champion winner has gotten in last year in TCU from the Big 12, and they got shellacked. And this year, granted, Texas beat Alabama by 10, which I think ultimately helped Texas' resume a lot because if you look at and I think the Texas Tech game helped a lot, the OK State game, but I mean TCU, Kansas State, like there's a lot of uninspiring performances from even the Longhorns. Granted, I know they missed Quinn Ewers for a couple weeks, but it's not like everyone had a perfect resume. But when you schedule a SEC team like LSU, who is a top 5 team, as a non-conference game, you take care of business. You don't lose the game all season. Like, what more can you do? I know you lose your quarterback, but there's been multiple teams, in the history of, football to win with backup quarterbacks. And there's, it's happened recently in the NFL, and it's happened in college with a list of quarterbacks who really aren't that impressive. Like Greg McElroy even kind of made the case earlier, just saying, like Alabama, won a national championship with me at the quarterback, like almost taking a shot at himself. Like AJ McCarron wasn't that impressive of a quarterback, and I think it was Blake Sims who ended up beating Deshaun Watson in Deshaun's first national championship. Is that right, Tommy? 2015, I think it was Blake Sims.
Yeah.
Like, where's Blake Sims right now?
Yeah.
Nick Marshall led Auburn, to the national championship, right? Where they ultimately lost that game. But I mean, Nick Marshall of all people, I think he had to convert positions when he tried out for the NFL. And, Cardell Jones had that miracle run, but even JT Barrett, I don't think he even got an NFL tryout as a quarterback. So it's not like there's a, yes, you got your Watsons, your Tua, I'll throw Tua in that conversation as well. You got your Burrow, your Burrows, your Lawrences, but I mean, even Mac Jones, right? Stetson Bennett, like these guys aren't all-stars, but if you got the team around you, you can win. And I saw so much, just on Twitter, just talk about how FSU struggled versus a weak Louisville team, but a week before Louisville was ranked in the top 10. They had one loss on the season. They scored 33 against Notre Dame, a team that held USC to 20 points, and USC scored 42 points against Washington, who's in the playoffs. So, like, I mean, you can make a case that Washington doesn't have an elite defense. Yes, they have a great offense with Michael Penix and those receivers, but I mean, Louisville had a top 20 offense averaging 33 points a game, and everyone on Twitter was just talking about how bad Jack Plummer was and not how great FSU's defense. Like FSU's defense, like they're getting robbed of a chance of a historic college defense. Like it is absolutely epic. Those corners are great. Those safeties are good. Linebackers, like every level, it's loaded with NFL talent. Like Jared Verse, oh my gosh. Like, I think most of us, yes, it's early to talk about the draft, but a lot of Bills fans would probably cringe at the thought of taking another edge defensive player or defensive lineman early on in the draft. But Jared Verse is an exception. If the Bills find a way to draft Jared Verse, you draft Jared Verse because he is that good. And like, even if you lose Epineza, like you put Verse across from Rousseau or you re-sign Epineza and then you have Verse. You can kick Rousseau inside. You have Oliver, and then you have Epineza. Can you imagine those pass rushing packages in terms of speed to power? Like it would absolutely be insane. Or Kalen DeLoach or Bethune, like those guys can just. I mean, you want another linebacker like DeLoach can lay a hit like any linebacker.
5:30.
Yeah, I think what we saw on Sunday afternoon at noon was a complete, utter disaster from the 13 men at the College Football Playoff Committee. It was complete disaster. And I'm going to say, and they wanted an SEC team in the College Football Playoff. One, because the games are on ESPN, because they're going to ESPN next year. Two, they wanted the better matchup up against Michigan because quote unquote, no one wants to see a defensive show between Michigan and Florida State because of TV ratings.
Right.
That's why they wanted Alabama in.
I mean,
and I can't understand the fact that Texas, who beat Alabama, who also won their conference championship, and then you allow Alabama in with Texas in the same conversation. At this point, it shouldn't be about Alabama and Florida State. It should be about who has the better win between Texas and Alabama.
Right.
Is Texas's win in Tuscaloosa better than Bama playing on a neutral site, beating the number one team in the country? I don't think the conversation should have been between Florida State and Bama.
I think it should have been between
Auburn too. They struggled against Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because if Florida State would have, needed a miracle to beat a team like Auburn after they got pummeled by New Mexico State the week before, and that I think was New Mexico State's first ever SEC win in their program history, right? They're like 0-37 or 0-36 before
Something
that
like
point.
that.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, Auburn is not a good football team this year. I mean, Florida, they're not great, but I mean, if you look at it, they're in most of their games. Like, they're a talented team with maybe questionable coaching, some injuries, whatever, maybe not elite quarterback play. But I mean, I think is Florida beating Auburn? Probably, right?
Mhm.
Probably pretty
Right.
convincingly, right? With their
Well, yeah, most
assuming
likely,
they have their starting quarterbacks, right? But I mean, Auburn did also nearly beat Georgia. So what does that say about the SEC? I mean, the SEC had a losing record against top
The ACC.
25 non-conference teams. They had
Yep.
a losing record against out of conference top 25 teams. So what does that say about the SEC this season? Like, I get Jaden Daniels was electric, special, but FSU punched them in the mouth. Like, look at the box score. They held them to 24 points. That was one of their lowest offensive outputs of the season. Like,
yeah,
that was a great defensive game by Florida State. And Florida State, I mean, they deserve to be in the playoffs, but we'll see. I guess their consolation is Georgia. I mean, and what happens if FSU beats Georgia? The narrative is either going to be Georgia isn't who we thought they were, which if that's the case, shouldn't that discredit Bama's win against Georgia? Because Bama had a close win against Georgia. If Georgia is now overrated, then that Bama win over Georgia is not as impressive. And then show me Alabama's next best win after Georgia. Maybe Ole Miss, right? Or LSU. But, I mean, it's similar to FSU's resume, except they don't have a loss. So FSU went perfect.
There's a slight argument here, and I don't buy it, for Bama over Florida State. I don't buy this argument whatsoever. It's the strength of schedule. The strength of schedule for both teams are just completely different. And I'm not buying that because Florida State went 13-0.
Had a better strength of victory.
Strength of victory, but strength of schedule was 55 to like Bama, whatever. Yeah. But when Florida State went 13-0, won their conference championship, went 3-0 against top 25 teams, beat 8 bowl eligible teams in their way.
Yeah.
And for some reason that doesn't qualify them for the for a college football playoff because of Jordan Travis.
Right. Didn't they beat more bowl eligible teams in Alabama, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, they beat.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
They beat more bowl eligible teams than anyone in the college football playoff right now.
Dang. Right. So, I mean, if you go by that, they have one of the best resumes.
Yeah.
Right.
And like,
and the college football committee is basically saying, one player, one injury can ruin your entire season.
And not
when
only
did football
that,
become that.
Well, not only that, I think that should then change the conversation for the Heisman. Like, is Jordan Travis that good where he can, break a team season that much where they can be held out of the playoff? Like, at least put him on the stage, right? Like, if that player is that important, like, I mean, why is he not a Heisman finalist? Like, I don't know. Like, I mean.
And put,
I'm an FSU fan. I'm definitely very distraught. I'm a college football fan. I think it's a bad
I'm a
move.
college football
Just trying to be a realist. Like,
no, I get it. Yeah.
I'd love to say that I don't want to watch it. I'm gonna boycott it. I'll still watch the playoffs, but like, it's just gonna be like, to me, it's like, it's not like. It's a flawed system, the whole, and that's why I like what they're doing next year with the 12-team playoff. But why not do it this year or have
I don't think it changes much.
Well, it's going to change a little bit, but I
But you're
mean,
still going to have
well,
13
okay, hold on,
people
hold on.
picking.
But they're gonna have it so you have automatic qualifiers for one of your conference, so you won't have this scenario where
Right.
a team like FSU gets left out. I mean, there will be, you'll split hairs with the at large, and you might get to a point where there's too many teams and it's a bad product, and people might complain about
Right.
that. But
Right.
to me, like, as a sports fan, I feel like it just kind of, taints the whole process of the championship, because then if you're going off of the 4 best teams overall and Georgia was supposedly the number 1 or whatever, and if they're that good and Bama beating them once can knock them off, and if Bama's a playoff team, like, why not have both Georgia and Bama in the playoffs? Like,
Right.
Georgia's a 2-time defending champions. Like, if the Pac-12 isn't that strong or whatever, keep out Washington. Like, if Texas has a loss, Big 12, whatever, keep out Texas. Like,
But yeah,
they're not consistent with how they're doing it by leaving Georgia out and saying it's about the 4 best teams, because
right.
if that's the case, Georgia should be one. You can't say that Georgia is not one of the 4 best teams of college football right now. You just simply can't. If they were to play Alabama on a neutral field again in a rematch, they probably win that game. So for you to say that Georgia is not, if you're going to put the 4 best teams in, they're not in because Georgia is not in there. Like, what's the point of
It's a
playing the
subjective
regular season?
decision.
I mean, Booger McFarland even said it. Like, you may as well just have all the teams go down a runway and just have a beauty pageant. Like, what's the point of the games? Like,
Right.
why do the results matter? Like, everyone talks about, the eye test or numbers or statistics, this or that. But in the end, it's always been about wins and losses, right? It doesn't matter if you win 99-0, 200 to, 199 or 2-0. In the end, it all counts the same at the end of the season.
Ben,
And
don't you think though,
if
like,
you're the last team standing, even if you win 6-3, a
yeah,
dub is still a dub. And if you
dub's
have a
the-
great defense, like, I will always stand on the premises of defense still wins championships. If you have a generational talented defense, you can shut down any offense and win games.
it's just got to be frustrating though, Ben, because not just one team jumped you, 2 teams jumped you when they were.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you can
And what happens if Florida State beats Georgia? Then you can make the case, well, they beat Georgia. Like, I mean, they deserve to get in because Alabama beat Georgia and was put in. Like, then they could have competed. So it truly is a lose-lose situation. Like, I mean, as soon as Travis went down, I knew the season was over. Let's be honest. Like, but I was excited to see Rodemaker because, part of me thought maybe this guy's the future, and maybe, it's a kind of, shoot, like, this is, I'm not trying to sound, like I'm living in a fantasy land, but maybe we got like a Trevor Lawrence situation. Not that he's going to be as good as Trevor Lawrence, but, we're like the incumbent starter went down and then another one, comes in and they're actually better. I was like, who knows? Like, maybe Rodemaker can do some things that Travis can't do. And I think that Florida game wasn't the best showing of Tate. And unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to go out and play in the Louisville game because he played very good against Louisville last year. And that's why I actually had faith in him going out there in that game and potentially in a playoff game. And I think it's unfortunate because if Tate goes out there and he he has, 2-3 touchdowns, Benson scores one, Toafili scores one, FSU wins something like 31-13. I don't think we're having this conversation.
No.
But unfortunately, because they were put in the hands of an unproven freshman quarterback who obviously was definitely not ready. I mean, it was just a bad situation. And I'm not trying to talk, truly trash Glenn, because there were some occasions where his playmakers, I mean, Coleman dropped an easy one in the seam. Wilson dropped another one. I mean, I guess, the line wasn't the best. I mean, granted, there were some injuries, but I mean, he just didn't play great. Like, anyone could tell, like, that was, it was like a rookie quarterback out there watching like Zach Wilson or something. And honestly, like, everyone on Twitter was talking about it. And I said it myself. It's like watching the Jets. It's a great defense and a good running game without a quarterback. And that's why, you know, we can say it as Bills fans. We love offense because of Josh Allen and everything. And I think that's just how the general football fan is now. You know, they don't like they don't like defense as much, and the rules are more, geared towards offense. So I just think, to the casual viewers at home, no one wanted to see FSU, in a 12-9 game. Like, that's just not going to perform well like that.
But
when did
Michigan game, or that Ohio State Georgia game, like
right.
That's what they want for their playoff games. Like, they want high scoring games back and forth where, it comes down to the final possession or getting a stop on defense to get the ball back. Like, they want, thrills, they want excitement, and just Florida State, they're not that team without Travis.
I get it. It's just frustrating though if you're our fan, and it's just you get jumped by teams, and you, like I said, you had the undefeated season and you won your conference championship. You get jumped
by and I just feel like it taints the whole. I feel like you could almost put an asterisk to this, this championship. Like, this team won it, but Florida State wasn't given a chance to play in the playoffs. Like,
I get y'all. I get all y'all's grief that are fans of that team, and it's just unfair, I think. So,
I can't just get this out of my head. When does style points matter in football? I mean,
it matters to people on Twitter. I'll say that, like, just being on Twitter, but yeah,
it's like the committee wants you to go out there in your conference championship game and blow the steam off Louisville. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I want to propose this to you guys and see if you guys like this idea. Do you guys think you go away from the committee and you make clinching scenarios instead of?
Well, they already are. They already are doing that next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, the top 5 get in. Like, the top 5 conference champions automatically advance. Like, I think the 4 best ranks are like the highest seed. But I think you're kind of
so next year doesn't come down to a committee picking the 12.
I think there might still be a committee, but it's it's definitely more black and white. Like, there's less stuff that filled in between the lines. But I'll say this, like, I've always kind of been of the opinion, like, back in the day, it used to be the writers, right? For the BCS, it was the top voted teams were in the dance, right? Why did they go away from it? Like, the sports writers are the one watching it the most throughout the season and covering the teams. Like, why don't, or the coaches, like, combine it? Like, why isn't there a format? Like, who gave these 13 or 12 people the power to say who's in it? Because we don't know their vested interests, right? Like,
I think the NCAA made that. I'm not 100%
well,
sure.
they did, but I'm saying, like, who are these people? Like, they obviously have some agendas. You could tell. Like, make it
they
so
are
it's
old
more
coaches and old ADs.
Well,
I think
I know that, but I'm just saying in general. There's gonna be with so few people. There's definitely gonna be biases and agendas, and they're gonna pick favorites. But if you have the writers doing it or the coaches poll, like, there's gonna be more objectivity, because yes, while some people may be a little biased, there's going to be less bias because you get a more truer poll. Like, how funny is it that FSU in the AP poll is still number 4 in the country? Like, if you go into like your well, I think it's different. But if you go on
Michigan, Washington,
but if you go and look up like if you go and look up, like, let me Google FSU versus Georgia, and it's like let me see.
Do you want it in the AP poll? Because I could probably pull up the AP poll.
Yeah, it's like number 4 FSU playing number 6 Georgia or whatever. Like it's different in one poll, and then the other it's completely different. Like, all I'm saying is I don't know. Like, it's a flawed system. I think the Heisman, if writers are voting on the Heisman, like, just make it the same people votes on the team. Like, if they think they could vote on who's the best player in football, why can't you put them to the test of who are the best teams of football? Let them decide, have them make the votes, and let that be that. If you want more votes to sprinkle in, add the coaches, but that should be it. But it's flawed, whatever. I guess we'll get to our game picks because we got that exciting game tonight with Jake Shiesty versus the Prince. So that's gonna be a real snoozer, but
that was a good excitement there, Ben. You get us pumped up for this game.
Who knows? It could be the best game of this game of the century.
Know. Like, I mean, if it was Burrow Lawrence, I think everyone would be looking forward to it because it could be a big game for playoff implications. But I mean, it just doesn't have that allure with Jake Browning in it.
Before we start, isn't it kind of ironic that the current wild card teams are all backup quarterbacks in this AFC East or AFC wild card race?
I was kind of thinking the same thing. And not only that, you have teams that were picking in the top 5 last year that have basically doubled their wins this season, and they've passed the Bills. And like, you can't say it's because of their schedule, because if you look at strength of schedule, the Bills have actually have had one of the easiest strengths of schedule in the league.
Oh man, just imagine a committee picking NFL teams. Just gonna leave it as that.
That would be crazy.
Strength of schedule, strengths of record. Oh man, that could be. They should try that.
Miami would not be very high if they're doing that. All right, let's get to our picks.
Let's get to the picks. Maybe a snooze fest on Thursday night. Maybe the worst one on Thursday night football.
Backup quarterback.
Before the show, I had to switch out a game, and this was the game that we had to switch it with. So.
It's in Pittsburgh, so I'm going to go Pittsburgh. Just also, even if Trubisky plays, I mean, we saw nothing out of Bailey Zappi in that offense against possibly the worst defense in football in the Chargers. So if they can't do it against the Chargers defense, like Pittsburgh's defense has been winning them games. Like even without Pickett, if Pittsburgh can't beat New England, they shouldn't be in the playoffs, but I mean, Buffalo did lose to New England, so maybe the Bills shouldn't be in the playoffs. But I'm picking the Steelers.
Leave it to the committee.
Give me the Steelers too. I don't think Zappi's going to be able to do anything on this Steelers defense, and I know they're going with Trubisky now. I mean, since what's his name's hurt. But, give me the Steelers here.
Yeah, Zappi is going to get a lot of wattage or voltage, whatever. It's going to be a lot of watt in the backfield.
Do you have our records, Paul, at the bottom?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. You're welcome. There. There's our records at the bottom of the screen. Okay. It's close. It's getting tight. So wins become losses, and losses become wins. All right, give me the upset here. Give me the New England Patriots for one reason only. I do not want them to getting a top-end pick, and they need to start winning games.
We're in danger of New England getting Drake May, but how funny would it be if the Patriots went from Brady to Jones to May, and while the Jets continue their carousel of quarterbacks, New England finds their franchise quarterback for the next decade plus. Tua's entering his prime on a big deal. Allen's balling out, and hey, there's Aaron Rodgers coming off Achilles surgery, high off all this, ayahuasca, trying to, make it through training camp with a beat up offensive line. Let's go Jets, right?
Yeah,
let's go Jets.
Like, man, the Jets cannot catch a break, but I love it. Like,
all right, next game we got. I mean, this is for the Ravens' sake for the 1 seed, but it makes interesting for the Rams in the NFC as they try to push for a playoff spot. It's in Baltimore.
Okay. I mean, the Rams showed me a little bit of something actually recently. Like, I thought they might go down kind of like they did last year with just all these injuries catching up, and just like Stafford's out, they lose other guys banged up, and I just thought they're just gonna kind of wheels were gonna fall off, and they would just lose all these games in a row. But they've kind of proven me wrong and gone on a little bit of a streak. Like they've I mean, I know it was Joe Flacco, but I mean that's a good defense. They put up 36 points on. So like, I feel like they're playing better football now. Stafford's looking good, but look at what the Ravens have done to NFC teams in Baltimore this season, and good NFC teams, not just mid NFC teams. It is not pretty. So I am going with Baltimore here. They destroyed the Lions and the Seahawks. Well, I guess you could maybe classify the Seahawks as mid, but the Rams are right about in the same weight class as the Seahawks in Baltimore. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are going to just be too much for that Rams defense. I know they got Aaron Donald, but I mean, with Lamar running, and they got still some explosive weapons on offense.
And it's a revenge game for OBJ, right? Like everyone's been clowning OBJ all season, but look at his stats the last couple weeks. Like he's finally looking like his old self and making plays again. Like he may not be worth the full contract, but like he's been an impact player.
And then when you get Zay Flowers the ball, the dude's electric. I mean, I kind of would have drafted
even
him.
Rashad Bateman's not a bad weapon, and likely is like a receiver almost.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the Ravens winning like 28-14. So give me the Ravens.
Yeah.
Jenna would agree with you too. Ravens.
You're
Give me the Ravens too.
Okay, I thought you were gonna go the opposite here. It's like, okay, all right, Paul.
I confused you with the other upset, but no, I just basically for the reasons you said, Ben. Just mid NFC teams. Just I think there's a chance there's a roll.
It's
right
crazy, and like I kind of brought it up last night too, because it's crazy listening to that the broadcast on that game. If the Packers won last night, they would have had a 65% chance of making the playoffs. Yesterday, the Bills sat at 15%. Just the difference between the two conferences, having the same record and yet a 50% difference of chances, like that's how crazy it is in the AFC right now, how competitive it is. And it just goes to show you how weak the NFC is.
Definitely.
Another AFC game that could be interesting to Buffalo's sakes if they pick up a win, but also for the wild card standings in a loaded AFC. Browns versus the Jags. Joe Flacco versus Trevor Lawrence.
This game's in Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Like I think the Jags are the better team. I think the Jags are going to be gunning for the 1 seed, but I don't have a good feeling about them winning this game for some reason, because look at recent history of teams going to Cleveland in early December. It's cold, it's snowy, they're going to have to run the football, they're not going to be able to pass it. Last year the Browns upset, I guess you can't really say they upset because, the Bucs weren't really that good, but I mean, they beat the Bucs. They've won other close games in December. Like Cleveland's not an easy place for, South Florida teams to play, or Florida teams to play in late in the season. So I think with the defense and the run game, the Browns grit it out. Like that's my upset pick. Browns. And I need them to lose for the Bills' sake, but I think the Browns win the game. That's what my gut tells me.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I still like Lawrence over Flacco, just because I think Flacco is going to make he might make that one mistake that
right.
So I feel, but I think it's going to be like a 3-point game, man. I think it's going to be real close in that weather environment. When they said they got to travel in that cold, but I think Lawrence, he gets that one chance, and they go up either by a touchdown or a field goal, and they win the game. So yeah, give me the Jags here.
Jenna has the Jags. There is going to be an interesting divide here because my brain's tossing and turning on this one just for the sole purpose of me just really wanting.
You don't want to leave me out on an island and make me look like a genius. That's it, Paul. I see what you're doing.
I mean, I had the most genius pick this year with Arizona over.
That's true. That is true.
Or Dallas, but
that's true.
I don't know. There's just something about, like you said, going to Cleveland. This weird things happened this year.
Yeah.
Give me the weird upset in this one.
Right? Like they beat the 49ers in Cleveland with Walker.
Yeah. Just weird things are happening in Cleveland.
Weird things are happening in the NFL all season, to be honestly, right? Like it's been a weird season.
It's been weird. You're right, Ben. It has been very weird. This whole year.
What's not weird is the 49ers because they just blow past teams, and they have the Seahawks at home this week.
I feel bad for Seattle. I honestly do, because San Fran has gotten to the point in their season where we've seen the last couple of years where, yes, maybe it's due to injuries or just, mid-season lull where every team kind of goes through. They hit some bumps in the road, but now they've gotten to a point in the season where they're healthy and they are a well-oiled machine and they are just a juggernaut. To me, they are an unstoppable
force.
And maybe an immovable object will meet them at the end of the year, but I don't know right now. Like, it's kind of looking like they got a date with destiny, and Purdy is dealing. The defense is the best it's looked, I think, in it, in Shanahan's career there in the Shanahan era. Chase and Bosa is a scary duo. I mean, Debo is so dynamic. Ayuk is so good. Kittle's a beast. And then McCaffrey, possibly the best running back in football. Like, I mean, how do you stop that team? Like, there's really no way to. It's crazy. Give me the 49ers.
I'm with you here. Like, I feel bad for that whole Seahawks offense and defense. Like, I think they're gonna struggle. I mean, I think McCaffrey's gonna run all over them. I mean, the dude's a beast. Like, I kind of wish the Bills would have made that trade last year.
Imagine if they did, but I don't know if it would look the same because you don't have.
You never know though, man. The way he's looking though, man, he looks like.
You think Dorsey would have got the most out of him though?
I mean, he looks like
on their line, but I mean. I think
if I had my votes, I'd vote him MVP. You know what I'm saying?
I said the same thing, Tommy. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
He should be a strong candidate for MVP.
I agree.
Offensive Player of the Year. Like, I mean, has there only been one game this season where he hasn't scored a touchdown? If I'm not mistaken, maybe two, if that. Like, since he's like he had like a streak of like 16 or 7. Like, he was either tied or a game away from the longest. The longest streak for consecutive touchdowns, in NFL history, of games. So he's a very talented and dynamic player.
Yeah. So give me 49ers, and I think it's gonna be a blowout. Give me the 49ers.
Yeah, 49ers.
Yeah, I feel bad
in Santa Clara.
Yeah, and Santa Clara. Yeah, I feel bad.
Yeah, I think Jenna has the same mindset too because she's going 49ers. But like a date with destiny, like with the 49ers, Ben said. Purdy looks like a pretty good guy to show up in Vegas.
Good,
just the way he just looks like a guy that would love to surf Vegas for the first time ever in his life. So the 49ers I have in this game as well. This game here is for the Vikings chances of continuing to qualify for the playoffs. They go on the road to Vegas.
Ooh, this is an interesting one because like the Vikings kind of found some midseason magic with Josh Dobbs and a spark, but that train kind of hit a bump in the road, and I don't know, like is Dobbs' job safe going forward? He's kind of looking like the magic was up, or I don't know, like in Vegas, like. It seems to me like the Raiders are playing very well for Pierce. They're coming off the bye, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna go Vegas. Actually, going with the home team.
Yeah, the way Dobbs looked, I think this Vegas team. I mean, they went up early on Kansas City, 14-0, and I think they do have some offensive power. So I like give me the home team as well. I think they get it done against the Vikings.
But I have a question. Is this going to be Justin Jefferson's first game of the season?
Mm-hmm.
Or first game back since he got
put on IR? This is the game.
I think he's coming back.
Oh, that might change the whole dynamic of the game if Jefferson plays and Addison. But I'm still going to go Vegas, though. I'm still going to go Vegas. Yeah.
It maybe a touchdown. I'm going to.
Yeah.
I was thinking Vegas, I was thinking this is the week where I can just sweep in upsets and go 0-6 for the first time ever. But I'm actually going to take Minnesota. I think the effect of Justin Jefferson coming back is really going to help Joshua Dobbs, and hopefully he doesn't turn into Pickett. All right, what could possibly
those are some fighting words?
What possibly could be the second best game of the weekend? Cowboys hosting the Eagles. What could possibly be an interesting spot for a 1 seed in a crowded area for that 1 seed of the NFC?
I think this game has huge implications on the 1 seed because I think following the game, you're going to have a new 1 seed in. Well, actually, I don't think they will technically be the 1 seed because who did Philly lose to first of all? Was it an AFC team?
The
Or the Jets?
Niners and
Okay, the
Cowboys.
Niners. Okay, so the Niners have 2 AFC losses actually, right? To the Browns and Bengals. So yeah, actually, if my
No, they
math is
lost.
correct, following this weekend, San Francisco is going to move into the 1 seed, and they're not going to let go of the 1 seed in the NFC for the rest of the season because the way both teams are playing, Philly and Dallas match up very well against each other. But
They do.
as we've seen, both teams are not in the same weight class as San Francisco right now. Maybe things changes in the playoffs, but Dallas has been unbeatable at home with Dak Prescott, this season. So they're at home. I give them the advantage. And also, if you look at, Dak's career, Dak has a very good record against the Eagles. Like, I think this year was like his first time losing to Hurts ever, because last year, when the Eagles beat them, it was when Cooper Rush was playing. And then at the end of the season, Gardner Minshew was playing. So last season, Dak and Hurts actually never got to meet up against each other. And this season, Dallas almost got the advantage. But I mean, let's be honest, like, Dallas shot themselves in the foot that game. Like, Dak stepped out of bounds. They're an inch short of, a touch or, the end zone that one play. They had the ball with a chance at the end of the game. Maybe if they scored or, took a field goal, one of those drives, like, they could have just kicked the field goal and won that game. So they had their chances to win in Philly.
They did.
I think they get their revenge.
I think you're right, Ben. I mean, they have not. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be looking at that tape thinking we should have beat this Eagles team at their place, and I think they're gonna be like, you know what, this is a time we get our revenge and we take over that division. I think the Cowboys get it done. I think they win by 2 scores, Ben.
Yeah, not only that, I think Dallas is going to be riding high off this big win and go into Orchard Park next week and get smacked around. Yep, perfect. Everything's working out perfectly quickly for the Bills, Tommy. Just what we need right now.
Give me the Cowboys here. I like the Cowboys at home.
My disdain for the Cowboys.
Paul is going to be the contrarian as always.
Yeah,
my disdain for the Cowboys is still high, and it's just bothering me to see them this good this late in the year, and they still haven't fallen off, just like the Miami Dolphins. I'm waiting for them to fall.
Right.
I hate to admit it. When I was younger, I used to like Tony Romo. Like, I didn't live through the Super Bowl years, so I don't have the disdain for Dallas that a lot of Bills fans do. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
Yeah. I just for some reason, that's what's pushing me. Like, Dak Prescott's having an incredible season by far. I'm going to give him credit, but just something feels that the Cowboys' way is going to come soon.
In other words, you don't want them to win, so you're picking the Eagles.
No comment.
No.
What about Jenna? What's Jenna's feeling?
Jenna went Dallas.
She went Dallas. Okay. Wow.
Right, Jenna.
So, all right. Me, Tommy, and Jenna all going with the Cowboys. I like that.
Go.
Yeah. I mean, this week, outside of NFL, like, college is basically, we got Army Navy, of course. Now. But yeah, we're about to be on a bowl game season. I mean, there are some really good other bowl games though that I'm actually looking forward to besides the playoffs. Like, obviously, I'll watch the Florida State Bowl, of course, because I want them to win. I mean, that's a good matchup. You got Florida State versus Georgia. Who does LSU play again? They got a big game.
Forgot who they played.
They were announced almost all day yesterday.
Yeah, let me pull it up. All right, I got all the bowl games. I'll go through them quickly. So we have the New Orleans Bowl. We got Jacksonville State and Louisiana, a big game. Georgia Southern. I'm going through them. We got Georgia Southern versus Ohio in one. The Cure Bowl. We got App State versus Miami of Ohio. I guess I'll get toward the bigger matchups, the New Year's Six Bowl. For any Syracuse fans, they did gain a bowl game by winning that last game of the season. So they play South Florida in the Boca Raton Bowl.
Ooh, okay.
So yep, that'll be an interesting one. And then the Holiday Bowl, we get to see that illustrious Louisville offense. Maybe does Caleb Williams play one more game in the bowl game? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he has. I think he wants to.
He said he does. Okay,
I didn't. I don't think he hasn't. He hasn't straight out said it. I think he will play that game.
I think they ruled he's not playing in that game. They said he's not playing.
Okay.
Already?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. I was hoping we'd maybe see one last game of
just
Caleb Williams. But, okay, we got our first New Year's Six bowl matchup, the Alamo Bowl between Arizona and Oklahoma. 12 versus a 14. That's a good matchup. The Sun Bowl, we got Oregon State versus Notre Dame, 15 versus 21. Another ranked game. Cotton Bowl, Missouri number 9 against number 7 Ohio State. I know Kyle McCord announced he's transferring, so I don't think we see McCord that game. We probably don't see Harrison Jr., so maybe Missouri, could get the better of them. Peach Bowl, Ole Miss at 11. We'll play number 10 Penn State. That could be a good game. Orange Bowl, of course, FSU versus Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
The Fiesta Bowl, Oregon plays Liberty. That could be an interesting game. And then we got the Cheez-It Bowl between number 20 Iowa and number 25 Tennessee. And then, of course, we got our playoff matchups. The Rose Bowl between number 5 Alabama and number 1 Michigan. Just see, that doesn't sound right? Like, we have number 4 versus number 6 in the Peach Bowl. Like, I mean, you may as well, add 2 more teams, right? And, give Washington and Michigan a bye and have – Alabama rematch against Texas, right? And FSU play Georgia. Like, I don't know. It is what it is. It's a flawed system. I'm still mad just thinking about it. I know we got this epic game.
You didn't bring up Texas and Washington.
No, I thought that's the last game. After
maybe I didn't hear.
Oh, okay. You're right. After Alabama, Michigan, we have number 3 in the, Texas versus number 2 Washington in the Sugar Bowl. You are right. That's the final.
I love like those
receivers on Washington. Yeah, it should be good. But
if the Bills could get Rome, oh my God.
Oh, that would be great. But I mean, we got this epic game tonight coming up between Jake Shiesty and the Prince. So we'll wrap things up.
Stop them. Bills fans were rooting for Jacksonville tonight, just to let y'all know.
Yeah. Yeah, because Cincinnati's still somehow alive, I guess, even though Burrow's out for the season. But
what's the Jags song? Do we know the Jags fight song?
I don't know if they have one.
Or would you say
we know they're struggling? We know they're struggling for fans to begin with. All right, that was maybe unnecessary, but anyways, root for Duval. We got the Queens podcast tomorrow. Make sure you check that out because that's gonna have some great insight on the game and preview some more insight in a Chiefs perspective. And then on Thursday, we got the Basement podcast. And I don't know if they announced any guests or anyone for that show. And then next week, we have a potential Bills beat writer. I know we already had Ryan Talbot, but we'll announce that later in the week if we can confirm that. But it should be a very exciting guest. So thank you again for tuning in, and go Bills.
Go Bills.